population. The third arm of this military expedition was sent into against the kings of the Mississippi Valley. And that one was, Hernán de Soto was chosen to head up that one. However, when they came against the kings of the Mississippi Valley, they ran into somewhat of a buzzsaw because they were a very powerful civilization and not the uncivilized indigenous wildlife that they had hypothesized. And in fact, Hernán de Soto died in this expedition, and only a few of the expedition was able to get out alive and return, and they had to leave about half of their herds of horses there. And these horses were acquired by the kings of the Mississippi Valley, the Proto-Choctaws. So having acquired these horses, when the other Euro-Americans moved in, and especially when the United States government started to interact, became a factor after 1776 and started to interact with the kings of the Mississippi Valley and the Choctaw Nation, their intent was to categorize them as pretty much, again, as an indigenous species and pretty much exterminate them without human rights. So the Spanish, on the other hand, had sort of taken a step back and reevaluated the situation, and at that point decided that, yeah, maybe the Choctaws and maybe these kings in the Mississippi Valley are not uncivilized, and maybe we need to interact with them in trade and friendship. So they approached the Choctaws with a treaty, the Treaty of Nogales, what was called the Treaty of Nogales, on May 14th, 1792. This treaty was enacted with the Spanish and the Choctaws, and it pretty much implied that all this trade and these trade goods, including the horses, were part and parcel of the Choctaws, and they had an international right to these properties that were being traded, and including these Spanish barb horses. So after their acquisition in 1540, these horses, by the way, a large part of the other tribes acquired them from the kings of the Mississippi Valley. And unlike what is sort of purveyed in the history books, that the Native Americans were constantly at war with each other, that's far from the truth. They were had a lot of interaction and trade and respected one another. And so there was a lot of acquisition of these horses throughout the various tribes. For example, the Appaloosa in Choctaw means spotted or painted horse, and it was a very prominent horse that was in the northern plains of the Nez Perce tribe and Chief Joseph and what have you. So in any case, these horses were founded on a legally recognized situation as part and parcel of the Choctaw purview, or part of the Choctaw Nation, through this Treaty of Nogales in 1792. Now, part of the treaty said that what the Spanish got in return was they were allowed to build a fort on this very prominent hill just south of Vicksburg. And they also built another fort, were allowed to build another fort on the Tombigbee River. And they gave as a reason that this would also act as a defense against the incursions from the United States government against the Choctaw Nation, who were attempting to eradicate them as a group and eradicate their cultural traditions and take into possession their property, including their horses. In retrospect, this is exactly what's happened. So my contention is, in regards just from a strictly five-dimensional legalized standpoint, that these horses were part and parcel of the kings of the Mississippi Valley and the Choctaw Nation in particular. Because of this treaty with the Spanish, they were acquired in a legal fashion, and realistically, they should still be part and part of under the purview of the kings of the Mississippi Valley. So from a historical perspective, from a legal perspective, and from the rights of life of indigenous species, I feel that it necessitates approaching the situation in a fashion that is appropriate for how the mechanisms of the governments of the Americas have been set up, and that is through congressional acts, not through judicial review or through administrative procedures with the executive branch, through the Department of Interior or the President. You can't approach them on these issues because it's already been adjudicated by John Marshall and the Lone Wolf versus Hitchcock decision that that's under the purview of the plenary act of Congress. Achukma Rishanyashke, Nanayaho Shishnoashke Nitak Valaya. Ilo Hitibapishima. We are all brothers and sisters.